Okay, welcome back. We're going to be doing some more score chasing. This time we're going to be doing Mario Bros. And just like Balloon Fight, this is one where I think I may have a shot at breaking 1,000,000 points. One of my favorite games to score chase. Looks like my current high score, 688,900 points at phase 71. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And originally when I started this channel, my intention was to do score chasing, primarily. The channel was just going to be me recording videos of myself trying to get higher scores in some of these old games. But then, we got sidetracked. We wanted to beat Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Bros. 2, Friday the 13th, Jaws, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Mega Man games. And that was fun. I'm glad we did all that. And then I wanted to do all the black box games, minus the ones that I can't do. And that was fun too. But the black box series is coming to an end. My copy of Slalom and Mac Rider have come in. I think all we have left... Let's see, all I have left to order is Volleyball and Urban Champion. My copy of Soccer should be in soon. So basically, the only games we have left to do are... Slalom, Mach Rider... Having a sloppy bonus round. But Slalom, Mach Rider... golf, pro wrestling, urban champion, volleyball, and I think that's it. And as I've stated before, we're not doing we're going to leave off the black box games that I think are quote-unquote inaccessible. So, although I do have all the Zapper games, I do have Gumshoe, Hogan's Alley, and Duck Hunt. Not going to be doing them because I have no way of recording CRT TV footage. The Zapper, of course, does not work with a modern television. Unless, I think there's some new weird conversion you can get that makes it work, but until I have more information on it, I'm not going to be able to do it. And truthfully, I don't even really like any of those three. Duck Hunt is okay, I guess. Hogan's Alley is boring. Gumshoe is, I've heard, unplayable. But my favorite of the Zapper games is actually Barker Bill's Trick Shooting. Not a black box game, but a really fun Zapper game. The other games we're not doing are the Rob the Robot games for a similar reason. Rob the Robot, rare, expensive, doesn't really work all that well. And if I were to record the footage, it would be pointless because no one checks out videos on Rob the Robot to watch the game footage. They want to see how Rob works in conjunction with the games. That was the whole appeal of Rob the Robot. The robotic operating buddy. The other game we're not doing is Donkey Kong Jr. Math. That game... Oh, but getting back to Rob the Robot, while Gyromite can be had fairly cheap, The same cannot be said of Stack Up. That game, I think that's the most expensive of the black box games. Rare costs like $200, so forget it. We're not doing Rob the Robot. We're certainly not shelling out $200 for Stack Up. And the other game we're not doing is Donkey Kong Jr. Math, because not as expensive as Stack Up. I think you can get a copy for about $150, but also not a good game. You know, I'm not shelling out $150 to play a crummy game, you know, for 5 minutes just so I can include it in the black box series. Forget it. Sorry. And honestly, there's really not that much to say about it. It is the only game in the education series. So every black box title belongs to a quote-unquote series. Like, you know, baseball and 10-yard fight belong to the sports series. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. belong to the arcade series or whatever. Mach Rider and Wrecking Crew belong to the programmable series. There's only one game that's part of the educational series, and it is Donkey Kong Jr. So, anyway, bottom line, we're not going to be doing Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Man, the thing about score chasing is when you lose a life, it just takes you out of rhythm. You know, everything's going well for the first few levels, 10 levels, whatever. And then you lose a life. Rebounding from that is so hard. It just like opens the floodgates for mistakes. That's my experience with score chasing. So in my last vid, when I was doing some score chasing on Balloon Fight, I talked about what I thought some of the issues going on with Cinemassacre were. You know, that the views were down, that they were selling more junk. It was really interesting hearing back from many of you who I know are also Cinemassacre fans, or were, that are also, like me, are kind of alarmed to see the channel, you know, just putting out lousy content these days. One point I've made numerous times, probably in several other videos, and I stand by it, is that I kind of feel like one of the biggest issues, the reason why we see, when you watch an AVGN from, 2019 on, 2018, 2019 to the present day, it seems so lazy, like there's just so little effort being put in. James seems so bored. The character is night and day from where it was, back in 2010 to 2016. And one of my big issues has been that because he's recording on his own time in the comfort of his own home, that he's not focused. I could be completely wrong. No, this is just, a fan takeaway, a fan's hot take, if you will. But it would not surprise, like I'm watching and I'm thinking, here's a guy who's at home. He's probably, maybe he just got done doing the dishes or something, and now he's thinking, he's recording his video, and now he's thinking about how he's got to take out the trash or go to his kid's school play in an hour. Like, he doesn't seem focused. And I'd always thought, it's kind of like, I think every year there's this petition that circulates with Congress where someone wants to eliminate air conditioning. Because for years, Congress didn't have air conditioning and they got more legislation done. And then somewhere in the 60s or 70s, they installed air conditioning. And it coincided with members of Congress getting comfortable and not actually working to get legislation done. Similarly, like, Screenwave should build James a... By the way, that petition fails every year, predictably. But Screenwave should build James a dedicated set at their Screenwave studios, and they should force him to come in once every, week or every 2 weeks. Have someone on set who can say, no, this is not good enough. We need you to, put a little more effort into the character. That's just my opinion. I feel if he was forced to come in for recording, that if he was taken out of the comfort of his own home, that he might put in a little more effort. Still a long way to go. This is a game that you really have to dig in if you want to go deep and set a high score. Oh, extremely lucky. I thought I'd blown another life there needlessly. So there's that age-old gamer question, or retro gamer question. If you were trapped on a desert island What game would you take? Or what games would you take? You know, it's usually like a roundabout way of asking someone, you know, what's your top 10? Well, I'll just name off a few games that I would take. You know, I'd take the Donkey Kong Arcade Classics cartridge because that has Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. That's a fantastic. That would be a great game to take with me. And honestly, I can't see myself not being able to play Balloon Fight and Mario Bros. I'd have to have my score chasers. I'd love to have Miss Pac-Man and Clue Land. Maybe it's more fair to answer what my actual top 10 is. It's funny, like the games that I would take with me on a desert island are not my top 10 games. I was having this discussion with, I think Rocket Cats, my pal, Rocket Cat Reviews. And it's a question I've thought about a lot. Like, what are my top 10? What do I think are the top 10 NES games? And the only way I can answer it fairly is to make a rule. Only one game per franchise, because otherwise, you know, you could say, you know, 4 of those games are Mega Man games, and you wouldn't be wrong. But anyway, here goes. So I would have to put Super Mario Bros. 3. You know, only one per franchise. So that means I can't have 1 or 2. I think 3 is the best. I'd have to pick a game from the Mega Man franchise, obviously. And this one's always a tough one. Everyone wants to say 2. I always strongly disagree. I don't think 2 is the best by a long shot. 2 is the easiest. It's also fairly vanilla, though. 6 is my personal favorite. And I think 6 deserves to be in the top 10. 3 is a close second, though. I don't know why everyone always wants to put 2 up there. It's fun, but nowhere near the best. Let's see, I have to put a Castlevania game up there. That one's obvious. Castlevania 3. Have to put a Contra game up there. I personally prefer Super C over the original Contra. I have to put a Ninja Gaiden game up there. Ninja Gaiden 3. In my opinion, the best. Visually, it's just spectacular looking. And I do think it has the most reasonable challenge of the 3. Let's see. I'd have to put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 up there. Just hands down the best beat 'em up on the NES. One of the better 2-player co-op games for sure. one I might catch some flack for. You have to pick a Double Dragon game. You don't have to, but I would. I would pick Double Dragon 2, because that one, easily the best. Let's see, so what do we got? We got Contra, Castlevania, Mega Man, Super Mario Bros. Oh, we have to pick a Zelda game. And for that one, I would pick... And this one I will catch some flack for. Everyone just worships at the altar of the original Zelda. Personally, I think Zelda 2 is more fun. It's my personal opinion, so I'd put that one up there. I would put Metroid up there. Metroid, just a fantastic adventure game. In my opinion, of the three NES flagship games, you know, Super Mario Bros., Legend of Zelda, and Metroid, I would go with Metroid. So I think that just leaves one more. So for my 10th, it would be the Donkey Kong Arcade Classics cartridge. This round is giving me all kinds of problems. There we go. Holy smokes. Oh, I'm not going to get the bonus. Bummer. I hate leaving points on the table. You need to have very precise execution on those jumps so you can just clip through the edge. So what did we miss out on? A little over 6,000 points. Ugh. But as far as games I would take to a desert island, it would have to be Score Chasers, because it's kind of the same issue I face nowadays. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, I love the Mega Man games, I love the Super Mario Bros. Games. But how many times in my life do I need to play those and beat those games? Now, that's not what interests me anymore when I play games. I want to, you know, I want to get better. I want to get a higher score. You know, it's kind of, and I apologize if you've heard this rant from me before, but like when I do play a game like Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario Bros. 3, you know, I love, you know, of course I play it to beat it, but at the end I always check out my high score, check out what my score is. Did I get a higher score than last time? And as kids, we always thought, oh, that's so pointless. What do you need points for in Super Mario Bros. 3? It's not like you get extra lives or anything. And that's, while that is true, it is just fun, you know, that you have this, albeit useless, you know, you do have a metric for checking out, did you have a better game than last time? You know, for some, they might be, well, you know, did you beat it faster? You know, did you beat it with more items or whatever? For me, it's, you know, did you beat it with more points? That's my metric. And this is kind of a silly point, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. You know, when I've played the black box games, I've always constantly, like, talked about how you really need to really get the most enjoyment out of these games, you have to pretend it's 1985 and that no other games exist. You know, all we have is, you know, the black box games. You know, that's the best way to appreciate them. And it's unfortunate that we missed out on it because, from what I understand, you know, the black box series was basically obsolete by the time the NES was. Most of us got our NES systems. I don't know a single person that had an NES in 1985 or whatever. You know, and you can, if you check out like any of those video game historian channels, they all say the same thing, that it was only released in a handful of markets, and I really don't know the specifics of that. Suffice it to say, basically nobody had an NES in 1985 when all there was the black box games. That being said, we really did kind of miss out. It would have been... It would have been something to... It would have been some kind of experience to only have the black box games and the NES. So, you know, because when I play the black box games and I envision, you know, not having any other games, I think about how, you know, this would have been really fun, you know, this would have been a really cool experience. You know, the two-player experience most of us have, you know, playing with a sibling or a friend from the neighborhood or whatever. You know, obviously you had more choices, but you were probably playing games like TMNT 2 or Double Dragon, Double Dragon 2. We missed out on being able to play the NES, and where all we did with our friends and neighbors was challenge each other for high scores in Balloon Fight and Popeye. That's too bad. Okay, so if we're going to get a new high score, we are about halfway there, halfway to 700,000 points. Having an okay game so far. Only lost one life. But imagine, it's 1985, you and your sibling are sitting around, you come home from school and you immediately challenge each other to a game of Mario Bros. You have a notebook where you write down who has the highest score. And that feeling you get when, you beat your sibling's high score. You get to cross it out and write your name and write your new score. We missed out on that. That's too bad. As we creep our way towards 400,000 points. I admit, it does take a while but it's all about getting into the game, having fun, becoming immersed, getting on a roll. Isn't that what it's all about when you're, trying to get a new high score, you're trying to get in the zone? Just missed. Alright, we are now over 400,000 points. Boy, I'd like to get over 700,000. You always worry, though. You're going to make that one mistake, and it's just going to... After that, you're just going to lose your focus, and then the mistakes pile up, and it's game over. There we go. Always love to use the POW block. Pulls you out of a sticky situation. You can't just blow it all on the first phase after a bonus round. You really want to space it out and use... It's the break glass in case of emergency. You're in a sticky spot, or, you know, the phase is giving you all kinds of trouble. That's what it's for. Sometimes you gotta know when to let those extra points go when it's not worth it to get the coin. Same thing in Balloon Fight, knowing when to not go after the bubble. It ain't worth dying for. You get greedy. Taking some risks. Alright, so we're closing in on, with the bonus points, we'll close in close to 500,000. Like right now, I can tell this round is going to be tough for me, so I'm going to use a POW. And we are over 500,000. Having a decent game so far. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Ugh. Squeeze a couple of points before we finish off the last bug. Let's see if we can close in on 600,000. If we can get to 600,000 without losing any more lives, I think we got a good shot at breaking the 700,000 mark. I don't know if a million's in reach. That's still a long way away. But we've got this life and one more. And to be fair, we've taken a lot of risks. I'm kind of kicking myself thinking about the 8,000 points or so I missed on the bonus round I flubbed. Broke one of my rules there, used the POW block twice, but I think we should be okay. Just gonna let those points go, finish the round. Not worth it. Ooh, very high risk move. I really shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to break the high score. I really kind of handicapped myself in that last round, wasting a life like that. Oh well, we've been playing kind of a high-risk game. I suppose I should play more conservatively. Oops. And like I said, the mistakes pile up. I did not mean to waste the POW on that. Alright, so we're at 600,000. I think if we can make it to one more bonus round, we got a shot. Oof. I thought that round was going to finish me off. Alright, let me get to one more bonus round. we're getting close now. So that is the most beautiful phrase in the English language, new high score. And I'd really like to get 700,000. We're going to keep going, of course. Very happy with this gameplay. Always nice to set a new high score on my channel so I can say, yes, it did happen, I was there. I knew that was going to happen. Alright, so I didn't get to 700,000, but new high score, 697,110 points. Phase 71. 71 was the last one I lost my life on, so... Anyway, we're going to keep score chasing, and should be fun. So we're going to go ahead and save that.